Here I am. Welcome everyone to another live edition of Talking Comics with yours truly, Julius Freeman. Um, guys, we have 6 days left. Six days left for the Ghetto Dragon Indiegogo campaign. Now, I'll get into the campaign in a minute. Hopefully, some people will trickle in into the show. Once they do, I'll get started with the show. But I just want to kind of start off with this, I guess, my thoughts on certain things that are going on in the comic book industry or in the comic book world per se. And I want to kind of share my thoughts on the matter because I feel like there's a lot of opinions out there, and I feel like there's a lack of perspective. I guess you could say a lack of perspective of how things should. I guess how we should look at things, especially things that are out of our control, if that makes sense. Today, I saw, Twitter blew up with the news of Starfire's child. I guess she's having her own young adult book, Starfire's Child, written by I don't know the name of the author, but let me pull it up here so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. And I'm gonna give you my 2 cents as to how I feel about it, because here we go. Hold on, let me see if I can find a better picture of this. There you go. Okay. So check this out, guys. And I want you, leave a comment if you like. What's up, ID Crisis? ID Crisis showing up, showing some brains. Thanks for coming on the show, man. I appreciate it, bud. So I just want to show you guys this. I Am Not Starfire by Mariko Tamaki and art by Yoshitani. Now, I'm not gonna get into the, I guess, bashing of this. I mean, there's plenty of videos out there you guys can watch that bash this kind of thing because, of course, there's questions as to how Starfire, for comic book fans who don't know Starfire is this like foxy-looking comic book character, long, luscious hair, and very, I guess, very sexy. I guess the un-PC word is known. And she has a daughter. Apparently, she has a daughter that's short, a little on the heavy side, and gothic. And I think Rich Johnson tweeted something out saying that how when do daughters look like their mothers? And I was like, dude, don't you know any basic like genetics? Like that's just the way. Whatever. That's not here or there. I just want to give my 2 cents on this particular book. I'm Not Starfire, and here's my 2 cents. I don't give a shit. Let me repeat that again. I don't give a shit. There, I said it. Guys, corporate-owned comics, they're not in our control. They never were in our control. We do not own these characters. They're owned by a megalo corporate entity. And before the megalo corporate entity took over the publishers like DC and Marvel, they were owned by smaller companies. Like I think Marvel Comics was owned by a toy company for a few years before Disney bought them out. And I think DC was bought by Warner Brothers, so they were owned by AOL Time Warner for a while. But even before then, these characters never belong to you and me. They don't belong to the reader. I've been collecting comic books since I was 13 years old. And I discovered as I got older that the characters that we grow to love, Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, you name them, right? We have this notion that we own them, that they're ours because we consumed their stories. And so therefore, since we consumed their stories, that we have a sense of ownership. And the reality is that we don't own these characters. We don't. And so the way, like, for instance, this, right? I'm Not Starfire is written by a Mariko Tamaki, and she probably based this character off herself, which is fine. I don't care. And neither should you. Neither should you care. Because this is not targeted towards you. or it's for you. It's for someone else. So don't buy the book. It's as simple as that. Don't buy the book. The more money you take away from these companies, the faster they'll catch on that, you know what, we need to do something about this. So that's my 2 cents on the matter of I'm not Starfire. I really don't care. It doesn't make any difference to me whatsoever. I'm not gonna buy the book because the book's not for me. The book's not targeted to me. It's not targeted to any other person who collects books. Let's just let it be. Let it be. Let it exist in the world. So what? Pick up other books. Pick up other books like The Ghetto Dragon, that's now live on Indiegogo. That's targeted towards the 18 to 30-year-old demographic. That's a story about a hero, someone who takes charge, someone who doesn't like bullies, someone who stands up to bullies, someone who can fight back against bullies. Indie comics is the future of comic books. That's just a given. I don't, the people who work at DC and Marvel still, and they'll probably continue to be working there. They don't know what's coming. They don't know the wave that's coming. That wave is the indie comic wave. It's already here. It's already crashed. $860 I was able to raise in this campaign. 44 backers, 6 days left. Help me get over the $1,000 mark. Send a message to the people who are looking for heroism in their comic books. Ghetto Dragon's full of it. Ghetto Dragon's about a young man, Matt Guerra, who decides to stand up against a gang of bullies and wins, but with a deadly cost. There's a deadly consequence to his good deed. As the saying goes, no good deed goes unpunished. The whole story, No Good Deed, is about his punishment for the good deed. Just imagine it. Just imagine it. You are jogging at night, cross a corner, and you see 3 guys kidnapping a young girl. What do? Do you step up and save the young girl? Or do you turn around with your tails between your legs? Matt Guerra steps up and saves the girl. And because of that, he's punished by the gang for getting involved in their business. And so does our hero back down? No, he does not. He pushes forward. And, I know maybe there's a lot of people out there. There's people out there who may think that this is a Latino-centric book. And in a lot of ways it is. But it isn't Latino-centric in the sense that you have to be Latino to like it. Not in that sense. Okay? If you're not Latino, if you're an African-American reader, or a Caucasian reader, or an Asian reader, or Japanese, Chinese, whatever, or a Middle Eastern, or a Hindu, whatever, this story you can still identify with the story because it deals with themes that are universal. What are those themes? Well, we all have families, right? What happens? What do we do when we hear our family members are attacked? What do? We take action. We step up. We defend our families. This is what the story is about. That's a universal theme. Yes, the main character is Latino. Yes, the villain is Latino. Yes, it takes place in a city that is populated by Latinos. But you have to remember one important factor of this story. The theme is that what makes it universal, it's a human story. It's a story about a young guy who knows karate, knows how to use it, not afraid to use it, and he uses it when his family is threatened. What more can you ask for? It ain't about I'm Latino and I'm oppressed and the man is holding me down, the system's holding me down. None of that bullshit. This is a straight up story about someone who just overcomes it because it needs to be done. Simple as that. So that's why when I see stuff like this, I go, okay, that's cool. Cool. It's probably targeting to the gothic element, the people who are goths, or call themselves goths. They're probably trying to target that demographic. Cool. That's fine. To each their own is what I say. And if DC Comics wants to make stuff like this, let them do it. It's their character, guys. They own the characters. You don't own them. So you don't need to, I guess, get mad at this. Let it be. Let Mariko Tamaki have her Day in the Sun. Let Yoshitani have her Day in the Sun. And honestly, the artwork is not that bad. To be honest with you, I think the artwork looks great. I can't wait to see the interior. The story, I don't know. I don't know what the story is about. I just know the title is called I'm Not Starfire, which insinuates that she probably gets confused to being Starfire, which is kind of impossible because she looks nothing like Starfire. So maybe this might be a story about, a woman, a young girl who's trying to find her own place in the world, and she's rebelling against the mainstream superhero element that Starfire represents in Teen Titans. I don't know. I don't care. And the reason why I don't care is because there's this in the world. This exists in the world. You could choose this as opposed to this. Or better yet, you have this. Let me pull it up here real quick. Can't find it. I don't know why it's not popping up. Maybe it's not live yet. Maybe it isn't live yet. I was going to pull up Rainbow Brute, but it's not coming up on Indiegogo for some reason. I don't know why, but whatever. I'll find it sooner or later. Whoops, wrong one. So yeah, I when it comes to stuff like that, it doesn't really bother me, to be honest with you. I really just, it's a matter of preference. It's a matter of who the demographic is. Who are they selling that book to? And it's pretty obvious who they're selling that book to. When you really think about it, right? It's plain to see who is targeted towards you, and you know what? That's fine. That's fine. So here we go. Here's what I want to pull up. This. You have this. If you don't like this, back this. Or back this. Whoops. not the not the web browser. This. Talking about this. Rainbow Brute by Ethan Van Sciver. $200,000 in one day. He launched this yesterday, or I think Saturday. I can't remember which of the 2 days he launched it. And look how much is raised. This to me is just proving the fact that indie comics is going to take over the industry. It's just a matter of time. It's already here. I mean, look at $200,000 in one day. The book hasn't even come out yet, and he already raised $200,000. Let me pull up the other projects that are on here that are ridiculously just successful, wildly successful, and that's because people are hungry for new stuff. People are hungry for things that don't pander to you, that don't talk down to you. And I think that's how I feel when I pick up a book, when I go to a comic book store. I feel like they're talking down to me when I buy any DC or Marvel books, and it's getting tiresome, to be honest with you. And Image Comics, some Image comic titles today are doing the exact same thing. Like that book, what's that book? The one that what's his face produced. Let me look it up here. It's the one about America. It's a dystopian it's a dystopian comic book. Let me see if I can find it. I can't remember the name of it. It's kind of like a take on, I guess, Donald Trump's America. Let's see. I don't know why I can't find it. I hate when this happens, when my mind goes blank and I can't remember the name of the book, of this comic book. Hold on, let me see if I could look at it some other way. I can't find it. I don't know what. Here we go. Thank you, Curious Comics. Thank you, Curious Comics. Undiscovered Country. And I tried reading that, and it was just like it was such a chore to read it. A chore. It shouldn't be a chore. When you read a comic book, especially one that's written by a talented writer, like I think Scott Snyder's the writer of the book, I believe. You could let me know in the chat if I'm wrong or right about Scott Snyder being the writer. Yes, he is. Him, and I think it's the second writer that's writing it with him. Doesn't say here. Charles Soule. So Charles Soule and Scott Snyder are the writers of the book, and it like I said, it was such a chore to read it. And comic books shouldn't be chores to read. They should be exciting. They should be, it should be easy. It should be fun. And yes, if you want to have the political message, that's fine. That's okay with me. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me at all to have a political message in your book. That's okay with me. It never bothered me back then, and it doesn't bother me now. But when you sacrifice the story for the political message, you lose me. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. There's other people who get lost in the whole aspect of that. And the fact that Rainbow Brute was able to raise over $200,000 in one day speaks volumes about the state of the industry, and also the state of what the consumer is looking for. And Curious to Comment says, I got the first issue, and this had to be the sorriest team to put in that kind of situation. It sucked. Yeah, you know what? I didn't want to say that, but yeah, I'll agree with you. It did suck. It was, like I said, a chore to read. And comic books shouldn't be that. If you're going to have the political message, fine. But make sure your book is smooth like wine. Like I said, I don't mind the political messages. I don't. It's just make sure the story doesn't get sacrificed. ID Crisis when it's every single time, though. Yeah, every single time. Yeah, every single time. You're right. Every book you pick up, it has some kind of political statement, and I'm a believer that political statements in comics should have some weight to them if there's that validity to them. So, for instance, like an example that's always used is the Stan Lee Jack Kirby book, The X-Men. When they did the X-Men, it was apparent that Jack Kirby and Stan Lee were mirroring what was going on in America at the time during the civil rights movement. And it made sense because at that time it was a heavy subject. It was in everyone's forefront of their mind. There was a legitimate problem during that time, but see, they guised it by creating comic book characters, mutants. And it worked. It worked. And nowadays it's right in your face, and it's like, okay, that's fine, but why can't you just be subtle about it? Whatever. That's just my opinion on the matter. It doesn't really matter, I guess, in the end of the day, because in the end of the day, people still have their opinions, and people still want their books to be a certain way. But I think at this time, corporate comics are dead. They're long dead. Long live indie. Indie comics is the future of the industry, because as we see here, this is the outcome of it. Rainbow the Brute. I think Richard Meyer also released a new campaign. Let's see if I could find. Let me explore here. Show you guys what's selling or not. Look, Karen America, Volume 2, $35,000. 28 hours left. Again, it's a matter of where the market is going. People are spending money. And She, $60,000. Look at that, $60,000 for She. Here you go. So Richard Meyer did a Zach Friday, which was a play on words for Black Friday. And look how much he raised just for his Zach Friday's sale. It's just it's unbelievable for me. It's just very impressive for me as well. That look at Sovereign Wolf, another great looking comic book that's coming out. $7,000, $500 flexible goal. I mean, this is just indicating just where the market's going. If the market wasn't going indie, these campaigns would be failing every day. But since they're not failing, it's indicative that it's there's a shift. DC and Marvel Comics, they're gonna be done, guys. It's over. It's over. And people who are still holding on to it, God help you. God help you is what I say. But I mean, this is just indication just how the shift is going. And now is the time to launch something. Look at Johnny Phantasm action figure, 13,000. David Finch's exclusive Red Sonja cover for Red Sonja, which is currently at $14,000, 23 days left. And then there's multiple other ones. The Fae, I didn't even heard of this one. Oh, I haven't heard of this one. This one looks pretty cool. Let's look at this one. Le Fay. Morgan Le Fay as a private investigator for the occult underworld in modern times. Very cool. This looks pretty cool, actually. Kind of dig this. Artwork's pretty dope, too. Gotta admit. But yeah, there's all these, books coming out. Oh, before I forget, I did this stream because over the weekend, I was overlooking my old stuff. I was trying to get a video together to showcase to you guys the other stuff that I've worked on outside the Ghetto Dragon. And I came across one project called Operation Guardian. And I have to admit, guys, it was pretty freaking scary when I read it because it really does. It comes close to home to what's going on today with the elections and the rumors of what's going to happen once it appears once Trump does win the presidential election, because I think he is going to win it because of the Sidney Powell's I don't want to get too deeply into the political stuff, but just in a quick little summary of it. See, ID Crisis Indie comics are everywhere. I need to make more money. That's going to be the ID Crisis, Dave. That's going to be the indicator there. I think once the pros that are still holding on for dear life at their jobs at DC and Marvel, once they see the writing on the wall, you're either going to see a bunch of them go to Image Comics, or you're going to see them go jump on crowdfunding campaigns, Kickstarter or Indiegogo. Wow, bold statement. I hope you're right. I'm the type of guy who likes to wait until all the facts are in, because whether you support Trump or Biden, it doesn't really matter to me. Because I'm more of a center guy. I'm moderate. I'm on the side of truth. I used to love this show at Nick at Night when I was a kid, believe it or not. It was called Dragnet. Maybe a lot of young guys don't know what the show is, but Dragnet was one of my favorite shows as a kid. When Nickelodeon would, their regular programming would finish, and then it will switch to Nick at Night, which was just old reruns of famous 70s and 80s shows. Dragnet was my favorite one because I loved the main character when he said, "Just the facts, ma'am." I used to love that. Just the facts, man. I used to tell it to my mom all the time whenever she would would accuse me of something. I would just always tell her, "Just the facts, mom." Because I've always loved that statement. So I know it's a bold statement, and I know a lot of people who hate Donald Trump will probably hate me for saying that, but it appears that he might win, man. It appears there's fraud. There's just a fact, ma'am. There you go. Just a fact, man. Just the facts, ma'am. But yeah, it appears that the what do you call it? The suits that have been filed in courts, it appears that it might go to Trump. I could be wrong. Don't take my word for it, but it just appears that way to me based on all the information that I've gathered on my own, because I really don't believe a lot what the mainstream media reports, because let's face it, they kind of lost their credibility in my eyes anyway. They've lost all credibility to me ever since, I would say, back in 2008, when I started losing confidence in their ability to actually do proper investigative journalism. So that's why I kind of have to I have to sift through all the misinformation they're throwing at us at the moment and kind of find the truth within that. But well, that's neither here or there. But anyway, going back to my point, I was looking through my old stuff and I came across a project called Operation Guardian. And Operation Guardian it's a political thriller comic book that I hope to one day produce. And when I was reading the first few pages, again, I had goosebumps because of how close it was to the rumors that are happening, the conspiracies that are floating around about the coup that may happen. So there's see how he says that's it, Julius. You're gonna be put on the list now. They're calling for retribution. Hey man, well if they put me on the list, I'm probably already on the list because of some of the things that I bought on Amazon over the years that were will be considered dangerous to the federal government. And I'm still here, but who knows? Who knows what can happen? But going back to my story, I wrote this book in 2013. I hired an artist. His name was Edwin Bosovic. He was a Slavic, very talented Slavic comic book artist, and he produced the entire first issue for me. And the story, to sum it up, is about a young man who starts a third party. He starts a third political party in America called the Liberty Party, and in the span of 10 years, the party won the majority seats in Congress and in the Senate, and they were on their way to get the executive branch. And in the story that I wrote, this third party, the Liberty Party, they hired militias throughout the country to be as security personnel to their political offices because they were being attacked by both parties, supporters of both parties, Democrats and the Republicans. So in the story, they win the majority seats in Congress and they plan on auditing the Treasury books. That's what happens in the story. And they plan on auditing the Federal Reserve. And so the day when they're about to introduce the legislation into the House, a terrorist attack occurs, and the U.S. federal government blames the Liberty Party for the attacks. And then there's a whole roundup. It kind of becomes like a dystopian fascist, America becomes a fascist country after that. The military takes it over and whatnot. So I just want to show you guys the first page of this book, because it really I was like, oh, I couldn't believe it. I don't know what I tapped into. I'm not saying that this was like I had inside knowledge. This was just my creative juices working when I was developing the story. And so without further ado, here is the first page of the book. It's in black and white. Let me zoom in here so you guys can check it out for yourselves. Whoops, there we go. Okay, so this is the first page, first panel. May 1st, 2020. Most people have heard of the conspiracy that America is and has always been a police state ruled by a nefarious secret cabal who control both parties, the banking system, and the media, rigging the system to their benefit. This takes place in the future. So I wrote this back in 2013, and I wanted to make it into a futuristic dystopia that was pretty close to our future. So now we're in 2020. So I wrote this in 2013, and I dated it May 1st, 2020. So he goes on. I could never bring myself to believe such nonsense. It sounds too much like a plot from a Hollywood movie. But based on what has transpired today and what's happening now as I type, it appears the conspiracy theorist may have been right all along. And so he's typing in his laptop, this character. This is the founder of the Liberty Party in the story. So he's typing away. He hears something outside his window, but he kind of ignores it because he's so focused. So he keeps on typing. And he says, the internet, our main source of communicating with the world, has been switched off by the Pentagon per President Bixby's executive order. Twitter feeds, Reddit, Facebook updates, YouTube streaming have been suspended. The mainstream media has been the only source for information concerning details of the attacks so far. They've managed, and then he gets cut off here because he looks out the window to find out what's going on with noise. And this is what he sees in the. Why isn't this zooming out? There we go. So he looks out the window and he sees this. He sees the military rounding people up. So this right here, the internet, our main source of communicating with these two panels here, these two description, these narration boxes. I was really, when I was reading this on I think I was reading it on late night on Sunday night. I was looking at kind of preparing this video, not this stream, but a video, an actual video, showing you guys the work I've done outside Ghetto Dragon. And when I came across this, I was like, what the hell? This, guys, this right here, this could very well happen. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully this is all my little conspiracy mind that kind of is working, getting away from me. But this could very well happen. Twitter feeds, Reddit, Facebook updates, YouTube streaming have been suspended. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine if all of a sudden something like drastic like that happens, a terrorist attack, God forbid, and they shut down the streams, the Twitter feeds, people, taking pictures live and video live and posting on Twitter in real time, gone. And the only thing left as our source of information is the mainstream media, the most untrusted, places of information. That would be freaking wicked if that happened. God forbid it doesn't. Hopefully this is all just my fictional brain, the fiction story that I conjured up in my head, and not some kind of reality that might occur down the line. Hopefully not, because if it does, guys, we'll be in big trouble. But I just saw this. I wanted to share this with you guys because I thought it was I thought it was crazy, to be honest with you. I thought it was freaking nuts that that I wrote this back in 2013. This is something I wrote in 2013, believe it or not. And so to read this and the story being dated May 1st, 2020 is insane to me. It's crazy to me. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I'm just tripping out right now about it. But yeah, I just want to show that with you guys. And Curious Comics says, cool, I started writing a novel about a modern civil war, started in 2009. See, it's a weird thing, isn't it? It's something like, Alan Moore, in one of his documentary interviews, he talked about that. He talked about how like ideas are in the air, right? And our brains are kind of like these little, like little antennas that are picking up the ideas from the ether. And, there's multiple simultaneous creations of variations of the same idea. Isn't that funny? Like, for instance, like a good example is the movie Armageddon and the other movie Deep Impact. Two movies about asteroids destroying the Earth, but two totally different approaches to the story, but the same idea: an asteroid coming to destroy the Earth. I think Alan Moore also said in the that sounds like a good book. Thank you, Curious Comics. It is a good book. I don't want to give away too much because I hope to one day produce it, and I do want to produce it because it's a great story. I think it's a solid story, and I want to produce something like this in the future because, like I said, the story is solid. I'm very confident that this story will hit if I ever do get a chance to produce it because it's developed. I took my time. I did my research. I really, really painfully did research in terms of how the political system works, that kind of deal. And so I just came up with this story, and it, like I said, it's eerie. It's eerie because it's almost like what's going on today, which is weird. It's weird. Yours sounds more accurate than mine, though. Well, I don't know. Like I said, I was just tapping into something, and it just happened. So, anyways, like I was saying with Alan Moore, he talked about how 5 different people in different parts of the world invented the same cotton machine, the cotton machine that pretty much started the Industrial Revolution. And he described how 5 different people from 5 different parts of the world invented the same thing, just in different variations. And I remember that always blew my mind. I was like, wow, man, what's going on here in this mysterious world of ours? What's going on here that we're not being told? That kind of as a writer, you want to think about these things. You want to think outside the box, as always. When it comes to creating stories and what have you. Indeed, at Curious Comics, have you considered that a civil war today would not be North and South, but rural versus urban? That's true, man. I actually agree with that, Dave. It could be, yeah, rural versus urban, because there's people right now. I listen to Owen Benjamin. Owen Benjamin is a stand-up comedian that has been ostracized by Hollywood when he had his little, I guess you could say, his opinion about certain matters that dealt with like political ideas and whatnot. And he was ostracized from Hollywood. He was literally kicked out of Hollywood. And so I listened to his live stream on D Live, and he talks about how he's gone total rural. Like, he lives in a barn, and he has his own homestead. Provides for his family, not by going to the supermarket, but actually milking cows, raising chickens. I mean, everything is homemade, and that's, yeah. I think that's a possibility for sure. You're freaking me out a little, but a good freak. I don't mean to freak you out. I don't mean to freak anyone out. Anyone who watches this video after the fact, I don't mean to freak anyone out, because I'm all about positivity. I'm all about I'm all about just thinking things. That's all. That's it. I like to think, and I think I'm not saying that you, Dave, don't think. I know you think, because I spoke to you earlier on the phone. You have a bright mind yourself. But there's a lot of people who I personally know who don't like to think outside the box, and that's scarier. That freaks me out. Is when they look at me kind of, like, what? Why? And it's like, yeah, dude, it's just fun to think about. It's just fun to think about, But yeah, rural versus urban, I see that. If there was a civil war that broke out today in the United States of America, it would be that, I believe. Yeah. And rural people will probably end up beating the urban people, because rural people know how to survive nature. They live amongst nature, So I don't want to get too deep into the political conversations, because this is about comic books. But yeah, I just wanted to share with you guys that little tidbit of the story. If you want, I'll show you the rest of the pages, so you can see what happens afterwards. So yeah, he types all that where he looks out the window, and then he sees, he says, holy shit, because he sees a military rounding people up from his apartment complex. And of course, here's the panel where they're entering the complex. Here he is with his roommate. Here they are going up the stairs, the military soldiers. Here's his roommate looking out the door, and they've entered the apartment complex. And here, his roommate, he's gonna try to fight. Well, I'm not going down without a fight. And of course, the roommate Ernie, the guy who created the Liberty Party, he's trying to convince them otherwise. And I like the sequence. I was really proud at how I laid out this panel sequence. So this is the door. This right here, if you see the knob, if you look closely here, this is the doorknob. So I had this idea of like, hey, it'd be kind of cool if I could split the middle of this little 6-panel grid here, and this could be a door, like the door that separates the two guys here and the military that's entering the hallway. And then they get to the door, and one of them's going to break it down, and the other one's going to open it and attack. And again, I like doing little mini cliffhangers per page. You always, as a writer, especially if you're an indie comic writer or an artist, you always want to leave the reader wanting a little bit of something so they could turn the page. Because obviously this is the end of the page, and you want to know what's going to happen. What's going to happen here? Are they going to get killed, or what's going to happen here? So you look at the next page, and you see that his friend Ernie talks him out of it, and they break down the door and they hood him, and they take him into the bus. And here these two soldiers are kind of talking amongst themselves, kind of like, questioning, hey, this is kind of this is a little weird, isn't it? So yeah, it is weird. And their superior officer pretty much puts them in their place. And as the buses are leaving, our hero is now going to have a flashback as to how it came to this. And we have a flashback. And here he talks about how when he was a child, he used to sneak down and listen to his father's conversations. And his father was always gone. He was hardly ever in the house, hardly ever at home. And when he did finally confront him, his dad just kind of told him his, runaround story about how he has to go and defend the country from bad people. And of course, 9/11 occurs. As you see this panel here, they're watching it live on TV. And the dad disappears again. But this time, he breaks into his dad's study hall, his personal office, and he finds a black book. And he discovers that his dad is a CIA agent. So his dad's involved in a lot of CIA clandestine operations, and that's what the story takes off. And you learn a lot about not just this character, but his father. And then the story it goes in a whole different. I'm telling you guys, it's a fun story. I really had fun producing it. And this page here is from a sci-fi comic that I produced called The Cleansing. And Curious Comics says ID crisis. Not sure because everyone is everywhere. It's hard to say, but I believe the right will beat the left. It will be law abiders versus criminals, socialists versus capitalists, live versus con. Ooh, a little political conversation happening in the chat. Nice. But this comic is a wrong screen. I zoomed in on the wrong screen. Give me a second. Here we go. This one here is a sci-fi fantasy book, and it's about a cosmic voyager who travels the solar system, and he is investigating the disappearance of one of his old friends who's a terraformer. A terraformer, in the term of sci-fi, is someone who forms the planets. So he had a colleague that used to terraform planets, and he disappeared, and so now he's investigating his disappearance, and he stumbles upon this green planet that's a single continent planet. And he's about to land, but before he lands, he notices this advanced civilization that's on the surface, and he's like, wait, this doesn't make any sense because this is a brand new planet. This is way too advanced for this younger planet. So he starts investigating as to who these people are and how they get there. And so he lands. Beautiful artwork too. I mean, this artwork was done by Andrea Araujo. Fantastic. I was looking for a Mobius style of artwork, and I found Andrea Araujo on I think it was Digital Webbing. Which, by the way, if you're looking for artists, I highly recommend you check out Digital Webbing or Zowl, ZWOL. That's where I found most of my artists. But I mean, look at this fantastic artwork, man. Just phenomenal. I was looking for a Mobius type of a look, and he yes, that's what I was going to say. Mobius, absolutely, Mobius. So when I found Andrea Araujo's, I guess his art, it was like, that's it. That's the guy I'm looking for. I'm looking for that, and that's killer art. Yeah, it is. It is very killer art, and like I said, Andrea Araujo, he just hit out of the park, man. I mean, look at this beautiful artwork, and the colorist, Catherine Tonison. Catherine was freaking absolutely fantastic colorist. She complimented Andre's inks. I mean, she captured the exact color palette that I was looking for. That I actually had in my head. The way I imagined it in my head, she captured it beautifully. It's one of those things that just came together. It just came together beautifully when I produced the book. He nailed, that's killer art. He nailed it. Yeah, he nailed it, man. Andrea Araujo nailed this piece of art. I mean, When I told him Mobius, he's like, I know exactly what you want, and this is what he gave me. I really love this page. This splash page is a fantastic page. I hope to one day make it as a print. Maybe down the line, I'll probably launch this on the crowdfunding campaign to get a print. You get a print run. I think people will dig this for sure. But yeah, here's the rest of it. Here's more of the page. This is the alien. This is the cosmic voyager. This is the guy who travels um, the galaxy, and he's looking at this. He's studying the planet as he's getting closer to the atmosphere. And this is the way he looks. And I love the way he came out. I kind of kept him mysterious because I felt that this is probably the best way to approach this character. And right here he's downloading all the information. So you can see he's pushing the button, all the green, the blue here. He's downloading it into his consciousness. So it was one of those situations where, like I said, it was coming together, and the artwork again, fantastic artwork by Andrea Araujo. And then he downloads some more information. He starts a machine, and then you see that he disassembles himself, and he takes the form of a human being to land on to be able to, instead of using a suit, he creates a corpse to be able to walk in this atmosphere. And when he lands, that's where the reader discovers that he is in Atlantis. So he lands in the ancient land of Atlantis, and you find out just how Atlantis gets destroyed in a different perspective. And of course, when he's welcomed, he's surrounded by a bunch of guards who are ready to kill him, and he just has to go in and find out what happened to his colleague, the terraformer, and the story is about how he discovers how Atlantis was created. In other words, cool sequence. Yeah, it was a very cool sequence. I think I am gonna do a crowdfunding for this book because the artwork is just too good to not share with people. So I think down the line I'm gonna do that. Curious Comics. I always imagine a castle siege type scenario, rural areas. Dave's still talking about the Civil War. Hey, it could be a story, man. It could be a story, Dave. You never know. That art isn't fair. What do you mean by that? The art isn't fair. I don't think I understand what that means. But yeah, guys, that's what I wanted to show you guys. This piece of artwork. I'm listening to. Don't understand. So it's 8 o'clock. I want to do for an hour. So I think it's due time. I wrap it up, but I just wanted to let you guys know that the Ghetto Dragon is 6 days away from being done. I'm thinking about it, but I'm not sure yet. I might extend it. It's going to depend. I think it's going to depend on it's really good art. I feel like I have to compete. Oh, I see what you mean. It's a different style, dude. You have to remember different styles. How can I say this? Like, you have Rob Liefeld or Jim Lee, right? Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee kind of have similar styles, but they're not really similar. They have their own different styles. So people still love Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld, but at the same time, people love Frank Quietly. Frank Quietly had a way different style. You look at the books on Indiegogo, right? You look at Rainbow Brute, right? You look at this cool style, right? By Ethan Van Sciver. Hold on, let's see if he has any more pages. I don't have any more pages, but you have this kind of style, this kind of style, which is Ethan Van Sciver's. Like it's cool, right? It's cool. But then you have Then you have this kind of style, which is still great. You just gotta find, your own little take on things. Let's see if there's any pages for. But yeah, see, cool style, their own way. So I'm being facetious. Oh, I see. See, you can't really tell with the live comments. You can't really tell, can you? See, I gotta work on that. I really gotta work on that when I read comments, live comments on the during the stream. So okay, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna go live every day. Hopefully, I have guests in the future, and then they'll be more interesting since they'll just instead of just me talking because I really don't know what to talk about. I got to get better at using my emojis. Yeah, emojis are really important when it comes to conveying ideas and thoughts nowadays, in these days. So just remember, guys, Ghetto Dragon, 6 days left to back the Ghetto Dragon. If you guys have not backed it, please back it. And I'm gonna decide whether or not I should extend it. I think Indiegogo lets you do that. I'm not sure. But I just wanted to let you guys know that I wanted to share that little tidbit of the Operation Guardian book because I thought it was trippy. I thought it was weird, and so I wanted to share something like that with you guys so that way you guys can see that sometimes when you're deep into your ideas and thoughts are interesting. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. Sometimes, like I was going to say, sometimes when you're deep in thought and you're meditating on I'm not talking meditating like yoga or anything. I'm talking about just like when you're a writer, like for me personally, when I write and I'm sitting there thinking about how I'm going to present the story and thinking about the details of what I'm going to present in the story. Sometimes when you go deep into things and you have just the wealth of knowledge already in you, because I'm a knowledge guy. Anything that interests me, I soak it all in. So when it came, like, there was one time where I was really into politics. So what I do, I soaked in Plato, I soaked in Aristotle, I soaked in Edward von, I think Ludwig van Mises, and I soaked in any kind of philosopher that kind of wrote the book on modern day politics. Soaked it all in, and then stored it in my brain. So when I start contemplating these things, when I write stories, I research. I do heavy research. That was my main my strongest point in college was research. I loved researching. That was my main thing is research. I loved being in the library for 6 hours, and I would not be tired at all. When I was in the library, I had a stack of books, looking through the books, taking notes. That was my main. I loved it. It was like treasure hunting for me. So when I decided to be a writer, I thought, okay, the only way I could do this to be a true writer is I have to soak in as much knowledge as possible. So when I soaked in the knowledge, and not only did I soak in politics, I also soaked in philosophy. I soaked in religious studies. I wasn't afraid to explore dangerous ideas. So I read the Turner Diaries. I read Mein Kampf. I read, Lenin and Marx. And at the same time, I also read Adam Smith. I also read Thomas Jefferson's letters. I also read a lot of Malcolm X. I read a lot of Martin Luther King's letters. Just soak it all in. And so going back to my point, I have that little brain fart there. So going back to my point, sometimes when you're deeply thinking about stuff, there's times where you just tap into something that you don't understand, you can't comprehend. It just comes to you. It's like a revelation of sorts, like a realization, where you kind of like, oh, it's like a light bulb going on. And so that's what there you go. See, ID Crisis has the right idea. Cicero, yes, I also did study Cicero. Believe it or not, I read some of his stuff that he written, and he was a bright mind as well. Again, you got to soak in as much knowledge as possible if you want to be a writer. I wish mainstream media would do that. Me too. Me too. If you want some recommendations, um, I started watching Free to Choose by Milton Friedman. He was an economist back in the 70s and 80s. And he had a show called Free to Choose. It's on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, I highly recommend it. It's a show that the first half, it's a documentary style show where he kind of talks about and narrates the ideas of free markets and capitalism and whatnot. And in the second half, he's in the room discussing the documentary and the ideas that he presents in the documentary with other scholars who are from the left and the right, and that made great television. So I highly recommend that if you guys are interested in learning more about capitalism and how it works. Free to Choose by Milton Friedman is a great program to watch. Not open to communists and Marxists, but it's interesting to learn history and ideologies. Absolutely, and that's what you have to. I was a Marxist. I'll admit it to you guys right now before I get off. I was a Marxist for a few years. I was all about Karl Marx. I was a straight up socialist. I loved Che Guevara. I was into Fidel Castro. They were my heroes at one point in my life. And so I read, Das Kapital. I read and studied closely the Communist Manifesto. I read Che Guevara's, book on guerrilla warfare and his other books on, what socialism is. So I have a very good understanding of what socialism is. But then one day, I started realizing that, hey, my friends who were also socialists told me Milton was the man. He was, man. He really was. Although there's some questionable things that he did that were kind of like, are you really a true capitalist, Mr. Friedman? Because I always go back to the main source, which is Adam Smith. Adam Smith. People think Adam Smith invented capitalism. He didn't invent capitalism. He just pretty much gave it the title. He only wrote the book based on his observation of the market. That's it. So Adam Smith is the guy that every person who claims to be a capitalist should study thoroughly. Because once you understand Adam Smith, that's it, man. No one can touch you in terms of defending capitalism. So that's my recommendation to you. If that had all remarks, and remember the whole time that he never has a job. that's a possibility. Yeah, that's true. But his book has survived the tides of time. And I was a Democrat and a racist towards white people when I was me too, man. Me too. I was there for a while. And I started noticing, but going back to my story before I get off, I started noticing that my friends kept pushing me away from that. Because I was like, hey, shouldn't we read, Wealth of Nations? Shouldn't we read Plato so we can understand, know the enemy, as I used to say? And they always tell me, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. You'll be brainwashed. That's what they used to tell me. You'll be brainwashed. And so the more I started thinking about it, I was like, wait a minute, but I'm already brainwashed though. Technically, if you're not letting me to read the other stuff, you're technically trying to brainwash me. So what I did was I bought the books anyway, and I started reading them. And when I read those, it was like I was missing the second half of the puzzle, and everything came together. So now I'm a well-informed, well-rounded, I guess, critical thinker. So now I don't have any. I don't partake to any ideology per se. Now I'm just centered, well-informed, critical thinker, philosopher, writer. So there you have it. So I hope you guys join me tomorrow. Tomorrow, hopefully, I'm gonna try to get someone on the show, or I'll be trying to get on another stream. And hopefully you guys will join me tomorrow. And don't forget to back the Ghetto Dragon. For those who watch for those who are going to watch after the fact, back the Ghetto Dragon. Help me get over that $1,000 mark and beyond before we close it out. And hopefully, I might, like I said, I'm thinking about extending it, but I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure. Maybe another extra 30 days just to be safe. But we'll see. Don't go into the light, Caroline. Don't go into the light. No. That movie freaked me out when I was a kid, man. Poltergeist. Oof. So before I go, I want to recommend one movie, RoboCop, 1989 or 1988, I think, with I forget the actor's name. RoboCop, the original RoboCop, directed by Paul Verhoeven. I watched it the other night. Classic, still holds up. You know, it's one of my favorites. So I highly recommend going on Amazon, renting it, watching it, and have fun watching it. This Friday, I'm going to announce right now before I get off, and then I'm going to get off finally. This Friday, I'm going to start a new stream called Talking Cinema with a good friend of mine, a coworker named Sean Malone. He and I, Peter Weller, thank you, ID Crisis. Peter Weller, classic movie, highly recommended if you have not seen it. If you've seen it, watch it again. But if you've not seen it, I highly recommend you rent it, watch it. It's not for kids. So if you have kids, make sure they go to bed because it's very violent. And the scene cop killed is so gory. Tell me about it, man. Tell me about it. It was very traumatizing for me because I watched it when I was a kid because my dad was very liberal that way. Because let him be desensitized to that stuff. It's okay. It freaking traumatized me forever, scarred me probably even. But I'm gonna start a new stream called Talking Cinema. It's with like I said, a coworker named Sean Malone. He is a cinematographer who has done a few short movies up in LA before the shutdown happened. So he and I are gonna get together and start this stream. We'll probably be on at around 8 o'clock Friday night. That is the first episode of the show. You start talking about movies. It's over. I'll never get any work done. Well, save it for Friday. Save it for Friday. I will have, we'll be on. The topic will be underrated directors. Pro tip, you know what? That's good advice. That's good advice, Dave. Pro tip, keeping the IMDb window open. I will do that. That's gonna help a lot. I will do that. But yeah, the topic for the first episode is gonna be underrated directors. So he and I are gonna talk about directors who we feel are underrated. He's gonna provide his list. I'm going to provide mine, and we're going to share notes, and we're going to talk about why they're underrated and how, and if we agree if they're underrated or if they're not underrated, that kind of thing. And the second episode, which will be the next Friday after that, will be about overrated directors, which will probably be the show that's going to get a lot of people mad, but I can't wait for that one. So, yes, on that note, Curious Comics, good night, fellas. Yes, good night, guys. I hope you guys watch the show. Hit the like button, leave a comment after the fact, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, guys. Peace.